welcome to today's video, and I'm super excited because today we are going to be doing a speed build of a spooky slash creepy graveyard. It's so good. I really love how it turned out. It took a little while to get it right, but I figured it out and I think it looks really perfect. And also I think it's great for the Forgotten Lands, but you could really use this anywhere in your valley that you're looking to have kind of like a spooky vibe. So I think it's perfect for that. I am going to give you some backstory of like what I'm doing in the build, but then I think it would be fun to kind of tell spooky or scary stories. So I have some stories that I'm going to read just as filler, so I'm not talking the entire time. I'm super appreciative of you being here, and without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into the video. So to start, again, you can build this anywhere you want, but I started off in the Forgotten Lands just because I think it fits really perfectly up here. So I wanted to go for a really rundown old graveyard vibe. So you'll see I'm using a lot of different like mossy trees, dead bushes, and all that kind of stuff throughout the build. So the first thing that I started to do was I started pulling out all of the, or not all of them, but some of the items that I was going to be using in the build. As you guys know, right now, trying to find items in the catalog in DDV is kind of complicated. It takes you back to the top. When you pick an item and set it down, it takes you all the way back to the top, so you have to search for them for a while. So I thought this would just help to speed up the process, but it also helped me to kind of visualize what I'm going to be using in my build. So a lot of the things you can see on the ground are going to be from the Nightmare Before Christmas set, which I think fit in perfectly here. Items that you absolutely need is Zero's doghouse. I think it's Zero. Yeah, Zero's doghouse. And then you're also going to need either the coffin, or you're going to need to craft some of these little mossy stone plank things. This is a craftable item that you got from Prince Eric, or that you should get from Prince Eric depending on where you are in your game. So I feel like those little mossy stones that you see there are perfect for like graves in the ground, which really set this build off. So I was really excited to use those, and that was actually shared with me in my Discord. Thank you to the community for sharing such amazing ideas all the time about these builds. I just love them so much. So I'm just so appreciative, and I just love when I see the community getting creative and using different items in the game for stuff like this that you wouldn't think, you know? So I went ahead and started placing these down and around, and again, there was no really rhyme or reason to where I'm placing things. I just kind of went with what looked good. And you can see that the Zero houses are kind of off-centered, but once you get in and you're like walking around, you don't really notice it being off-centered much. One thing I did to help with the Zero house not sitting directly in the middle of the plank on the ground was that I put some things next to it or in around it. So you'll see that later on in the video. So those little planks that you see on the ground there, those are again craftable, and I think there's a clip. There is a clip in the video that's going to be coming up soon where I show off exactly, you know, how to find this item or what craftable item it is, so that you know exactly what it is that I'm using. But the coffins are a perfect use as well. You could use coffins instead of the mossy plank, or you could use also Cortez's chest, I think is what it's called. But yeah, I just think that they work perfectly, honestly, for what I'm trying to do. I mean, look at this. They kind of look like old and a little dirty, and I think it's just perfect for the graveyard. I even rotate them around a little bit so that they're not like, you know, it doesn't seem like too perfect, if that makes sense. Cortez's chest, which is a part of the Halloween Star Path for this year, is perfect for this build as well. You'll see that one of my favorite areas in this build is going to be off to the left-hand side, and it just turned out to be perfect. I had another item there, but I ended up switching it. You'll again see all of that later. Don't want to jump too far ahead, but again, Cortez's chest could work great for this graveyard as well, because it kind of has like a little opening and it makes it seem like a skeleton crawled out or something. Oh yeah, here it is right here. So it's called a mossy base. It is pretty expensive to craft. It costs 50 stone to make, among other, you know, resources. So if you're like me, that's a little expensive. Another thing I do want to point out about this build, y'all, is that I used the fencing intentionally to be kind of like broken up and in bits. So it's not all connected in a square. I kind of, you know, left gaps and things like that open. I just kind of wanted to feel like it was falling apart for a sense. So yeah, I'm super excited with how it turned out. I hope you guys love this build. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me in the comment section below. I'd be happy to help or provide any advice or anything that you need for your build. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's go ahead and jump into some spooky stories while you guys watch, so I can keep you entertained while you're going through this speed build. So I did a quick search online and found ranker.com, which they have a list of these spooky graveyard stories that came from the graveyard keepers. And I found some really good ones, so I'm excited to share them with you. The first one is someone stacked the caskets like a house of cards. And to credit, this story is from a Redditor, Nick Botic is the name. I will link this website in the description box below so you guys can come and read some of these stories for yourself if you would like to. All right, so here we go. My family has owned a cemetery for nearly 5 generations, and I've been working there since I was 12. The house that my family built the property on is about 30 yards back from the main office. One night, when we were kids, my grandpa and uncle were up late. My uncle happened to look out their window and swore to my grandpa that he saw someone walking behind the trees. The lamppost illuminated the very first handful of plots and headstones on the other side of the road, but at that point, they were undisturbed. My grandpa and uncle stood at their window for a little while, with my grandpa ultimately teasing my uncle for being scared. However, when they woke up the next morning, the police were there. In the hours between when they looked out the window and saw the burial plots undisturbed, which was about 4 a.m., and the time they noticed the commotion, which was about 7 a.m., 7 of the plots have been dug up. The headstones were stacked very deliberately like a house of cards, and behind them the caskets were atop one another, the first one laying flat, the next one straight up, then flat, straight up, with the final one flat. With basic casket dimensions taken into account, that's nearly 30 feet high. I'm sure you can imagine, even with the machinery in the present day, that would take at least a little bit of time to accomplish. But nope, back in the 1950s, this was somehow done in a span of less than 180 minutes, with no one that lived in the house able to hear it going on. Creepy. I don't know. You always have to wonder if these things are true, but could you imagine? All right, now this next one is about as creepy as they get. It's titled, "A Ghost Continued to Visit His Family," from a Redditor named Drew Sparrow. One afternoon, my coworker and I were walking the paved roads with a trash bag looking for litter. We came upon a particular area of the cemetery that has a lot of mausoleums and took to the next lane around the corner that goes along the side of one mausoleum. As we rounded it, there was an older gentleman, maybe in his late 60s, early 70s, standing with his back against the side of the mausoleum, just looking at a plot of graves nearby. 2 things were kind of weird about him. He was dressed a bit odd, his clothes were a little out of date, corduroy jacket in 80-degree weather, and one of those newsboys type of caps, long pants, and a button-up shirt. But when you think about it, a lot of elderly people kind of dress in out-of-date clothing anyway, so I kind of shrugged that off. The second thing, he had a coffee mug he was drinking out of. Not a thermos or a styrofoam cup with a lid, an actual ceramic coffee mug that he was sipping out of right in the middle of the cemetery. We waved to each other and kept walking. We were only a few feet away when the other girl said, "That was a little weird," and we both looked over our shoulders back at him, but he was gone. We stopped and kind of took a few steps back to see if he had walked around the mausoleum or something, but we couldn't see him anymore. A couple days later, we both showed up for work and found one of the regular workers to let him know we were there. We talked to him for a few minutes, and I brought up seeing the old man at the mausoleum in the east section. The groundskeeper smiled and asked, "Did he have a coffee mug?" We said, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, that's our ghost. He's not really there." We pressed for more explanation, and he said he's always in that spot looking at a family plot and always has a coffee mug. He said there's a grave for the wife, 2 daughters, and the husband. The husband's grave says that he passed in the early 70s, and the wife and the 2 daughters' graves say they passed a couple decades before. And the 3 of them have the exact same date that their lives ended. They think that he was the dad and maybe used to visit his wife and daughter's graves a lot. He told us people only see him for a few seconds and then he's gone. Ooh, what? That is crazy. Could you imagine? I literally could not imagine walking past a graveyard and then realizing sometime later that I just regularly just saw a ghost. Nothing, no biggie, just a ghost. So I hope that you enjoyed those stories. If you do kind of like this style, I'll make sure I do it on the next video. I just thought that incorporating some spooky stories during, Halloween season could be fun for this video, but let me know if you're into it or not. So I think the speed build is coming along nicely. Let's go ahead and see how this looks in the actual game. I'm kind of obsessed with it. If you enjoyed this video or love the build, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. I would so appreciate that. Subscribe if you're feeling like this is some content that you would like to see. I would love to have you as a part of the family. Also, if you're looking forward to some more inspiration, stay tuned to the end of the video where I'll have another video linked to showcase another creepy build that's perfect for the Halloween season. Just a little hint, it involves pumpkins. Okay, enough talking. This is how it looks in your valley.